Now they just needed to get coffee beans. Mango and Banjo decided to explore the island and look for coffee beans. They took some coconuts with them. They walked around the island and saw many wonderful things. They saw colorful fish and coral in the water, and crabs and starfish on the sand. They saw squirrels in the trees, and rabbits and deer on the grass. They saw a waterfall and a rainbow, and a cave and a volcano. They were amazed by the beauty and diversity of the island, but they didn't see any coffee beans. They searched high and low, but they couldn't find any. They wondered where they could be. They asked some of the animals they met, but none of them knew what coffee beans were or where to find them. They started to feel frustrated and disappointed. They had come so far and worked so hard, but they still couldn't complete their mission. They wondered if they would ever find coffee beans. They wondered if they would ever return to the forest. They wondered if their friends were still alive. They felt sad and hopeless. But then they heard a voice that changed everything. It was a friendly and familiar voice. It was the voice of the owl. "Hello, my dear children," the owl said. "I'm glad to see you again." Mango and Banjo looked up and saw the owl flying in the sky. He had followed them from the forest to the island. He had been watching over them all along. They were overjoyed to see him. "Owl, owl, you're here!" Mango exclaimed. "We're so happy to see you." "Owl, owl, you're here!" Banjo echoed. The owl landed on a branch near them and smiled. "I'm happy to see you too," he said. "And I'm proud of you. You have done very well. You have shown courage and wisdom. You have found coconuts, and you will find coffee beans too." "Really?" Mango asked. "Where are they?" The owl pointed his wing to the west. "They are on another island," he said. "A smaller one. You can see it from here." Mango and Banjo looked where the owl was pointing. They saw a tiny speck of land in the distance, with a few green dots on it. "Is that it?" Mango asked. "That's it," the owl confirmed. "That's where you will find coffee beans." Mango and Banjo felt a surge of hope and excitement. They thanked the owl for his guidance and asked him how to get there. The owl told them that they would need a boat to cross the sea. He said that there was a boat on this island, hidden in a secret place. He said that he would show them where it was, but they would have to be careful not to be seen by anyone else. "Who else is on this island?" Banjo asked. The owl looked around nervously and lowered his voice. "There are some people on this island," he said. "But they are not like you or me. They are not friendly or kind. They are evil and cruel. They are treasure hunters." Mango and Banjo gasped in horror. They had never heard of such people before. They didn't know what treasure hunters were, but they sounded terrible and scary and dangerous. They wondered what they were doing here and why they had a boat. They decided to follow the owl quietly and avoid any contact with them. Maybe they could find the boat without being noticed or caught. Mango and Banjo followed the owl to the other side of the island. There they saw a small hut made of wood and leaves. It was hidden behind some bushes and rocks. The owl told them that the boat was inside the hut, but they had to be very careful not to make any noise or leave any traces. "Why?" Mango asked. "Because this is where the treasure hunters live." The owl said. "They come here every day to rest and store their loot. They have a lot of gold and jewels that they have stolen from other islands. They are very greedy and selfish, and they don't like to share with anyone. If they see you or find out that you have taken their boat, they will chase you and hurt you." Mango and Banjo shivered in fear. They didn't want to meet the treasure hunters. They didn't want to get hurt, but they also didn't want to give up. They needed the boat. They needed the coffee beans. They needed to save their friends. They decided to take the risk. They nodded at the owl and crept towards the hut. They hoped that the treasure hunters were not there, or if they were, that they were asleep. They reached the hut and peeked inside. There was nobody inside. How lucky they were. They saw a small boat made of wood and metal. It had a sail and a motor, and it looked sturdy and fast. It was exactly what they needed. They also saw a lot of chests and bags filled with gold and jewels. They sparkled and shone in the dim light. They looked very valuable and tempting. But Mango and Banjo didn't care about them. They only cared about the boat. They quickly entered the hut and pushed the boat towards the door. It was heavy and hard to move, but they managed to do it with their strength and teamwork. They dragged the boat out of the hut and towards the water. They were almost there, when suddenly they heard a loud shout. "Hey, what are you doing? Stop right there." The treasure hunters had returned. They had seen Mango and Banjo stealing their boat. They were angry and furious. They ran after them with their weapons. Mango and Banjo panicked. They had been caught red-handed. They had no chance to escape or fight back. They thought they were doomed. But then something unexpected happened. A loud roar came from the volcano. It erupted with fire and smoke. It spewed lava and rocks. It shook the ground. It scared everyone. The treasure hunters stopped in their tracks. They dropped their weapons and ran for their lives. They forgot about Mango and Banjo and their boat. They only cared about saving themselves. Mango and Banjo took advantage of this distraction. They pushed the boat into the water and jumped on board. They started the motor and sailed away from the island. They held onto each other tightly as they dodged the lava and rocks. They felt hot and scared, but also relieved. They had escaped from the treasure hunters. They hoped that they would survive this ordeal, and they hoped that they would find coffee beans. Mango and Banjo sailed towards the other island where the coffee beans were. They followed the direction that the owl had given them. They also used a compass and the map that they had found in the boat. They were glad that the treasure hunters had left them behind. They sailed for a long time. They saw many things along the way. They saw dolphins and whales in the water, and eagles and albatrosses in the sky. They saw clouds and stars and rainbows, and sunrise and sunset. They were amazed by the beauty and diversity of the sea. And finally, they saw a small island in the distance, with a few green dots on it. It was the island that the owl had told them about. It was the island where they would find coffee beans. Mango and Banjo felt a surge of hope and excitement. They thanked the sky for its guidance and sailed towards the island. They hoped that no one would stop them. They reached the shore and dragged their boat out of the water. They looked around and saw that the island was small and quiet. There were no animals or people on it, only plants. There were flowers and herbs everywhere, and bushes and vines. There was also a hill in the center. But most importantly, there were coffee beans. Lots and lots of coffee beans. They grew in small bushes that covered the island. They were red and ripe and ready to be picked. They smelled rich and aromatic, and they looked delicious. Mango and Banjo couldn't believe their luck. They had found coffee beans. They ran towards the bushes and picked as many coffee beans as they could. They filled their pockets and bags with them. They also ate some of them raw, which tasted bitter but gave them a boost of energy. They felt energized and refreshed. They smiled at each other and nodded. They had done it. They had gotten coffee beans. They used a compass and the map to sail back to their land where their forest was. With the help of the owl, they made the magical mixture using coconut water and coffee bean extract and heal all their friends. Soon after, a heavy rain poured onto the forest. The forest regained its life and energy. The coconut coffee adventure had ended. Please stay tuned and subscribe to this channel for more of their upcoming adventures. Thank you for your support.